Welcome to a very exciting game analysis video where I'm gonna be taking a look at the game by one of the best, if not best, attackers in chess history, Mikhail Tal, also known as Magician from Riga. He was playing with white pieces against Alexander Koplenz, another very strong player, and I think he also was his coach. So it's, student against the coach in the battle of chess, and it's always very exciting. So Mikhail Tal starts with e4, and I could go on and on about the sacrifices that he made throughout his chess career, but this game, again, I just I was scrolling TikTok and found, I think Levy at some point analyzed it, and I was like, why not show it to my viewers as well? So Alexander plays c5, and now Mikhail goes for knight f3. d6 is played, now d4, striking in the center, c takes d4, knight d4, knight f6, all theory, knight c3, knight c6, and here we're going for the main line bishop g5 rouser. So here I think a lot of people started playing bishop c4, just trying to escape a long theoretical line which occur in bishop g5, but at that time bishop c4 wasn't as popular, and bishop g5 is usually being played even nowadays. So e6, main move, queen goes to d2, and white's idea is generally to castle long and try to set up an attack on the king side. So after bishop e7, white go castle, and after short castle, knight goes to b3. Once again, it's all theory. Now queen b6. Queen b6 is something that I personally don't really like. I would honestly play something like a6 here, but I assume after bishop f6, that's now very bad. But the problem is, even after queen b6, there is a possibility that white can simply take on f6, but now it is slightly better because now black, the idea of queen b6 and white bishop f6 is good here because black don't have to trade queens, and now queen f2, bishop c3. So a lot of threats, while in the line I just showed you, a6, bishop f6, queen d6, we take with the tempo, and now queen b6, we reach the same position, but now it's actually white's move, and then can play queen g3, while in the line that was happening before, it is black to move, so a6 move is included, right, between the two lines. So queen b6, white go f3, protecting the pawn on e4, now black go a6. So they decided to go a slightly different way, which is very precise and very, very calm, very boring, but it is what it is. But it's calmness before the storm. So here rook goes to d8. Black's only idea might be to push d5 in the center. So d5 is the only plan black might have. So bishop goes to e3, queen goes to c7, and now h4. So h4 is something that computer doesn't really like. Computer very, very passionate about g5 move, but again, knight d7, even I would honestly even consider knight h5. I'm not sure. Okay, queen f2, and now there is a huge problem, and I believe queen h4 is potentially coming as well, or f4, f5. Yes, actually that's bad, but after, let's say, g5, knight d7, black don't have too many problems. Position is still better for white pieces, but it's not that critical. h4 is very logical. Mikhail is trying to attack on the king side. He doesn't really think that black can attack on the queen side, and he is correct, because look, black have to play b5, black have to play something like rook b8, and then try to spend some time, while white's pawns are coming, and they're coming fast. b5 was played on the board, and computer thinks it's a mistake, but once again it looks logical, because black need to set up counterplay. This reminds me of my own games when I play sometimes with black pieces. If you haven't checked my recaps, go check them out. Sometimes I'm being destroyed with black pieces against strong players, and here specifically, yes, black are trying to stop something, but they just can't do anything. G5. Now knight goes to d7. And here Mikhail does the first very important and attacking move. So you don't see the moves that computer suggests, but what would you play here? And I think that many of you will find the move that Tal played here, because once again it looked logical, and it's, if you know, you can find this maneuver in many chess books as well. So this move, yes, while h5 might be great, moves like queen g2, which computer suggests doesn't make sense, queen f2 makes sense, but doesn't threaten bishop b6. Actually, I think that Tal's move actually makes the most sense between all the moves that computer suggests. Tal plays g6. He wants to create a target for himself on this g6 square. He sacrifices a pawn, but if this pawn was to be captured, which happened in the game, he has the next great move. So f takes g6 creates a lot of weaknesses. It is the best computer move, but it's very hard to make it. This e6 pawn is weak. h5 is coming no matter what, but I would honestly worry about f-file as well potentially, but apparently there are not as many problems as Black probably thought there would be and played h takes g6. But h takes g6 is clearly a mistake. So white f takes g6 is slightly better. h5 takes, rook h5, and now knight goes to f6. While in the line after h takes g6, h5, and now if takes knight f6, which happened in the game, the file is now opened, and now this f takes g6 capture would have created a space for the king to move. While in this specific position, Tal just goes rook h1. He's saying, buddy, queen h2, queen h8, who is coaching whom right now? I should be your coach. And that's correct, because Tal demonstrated, I think against Koblenz actually, I think I have another game analysis on my channel where Tal played probably against Koblenz as well. I'm not sure, you know what, it might even be the same game. I hope it's not. But it will be an epic fail on my side. But you haven't seen, many of you haven't seen this game, so I just want to show you. So pawn goes to d5. Queen is now open, so queen h2 now doesn't really work, but there is other things that might work. So first, white play e5. So e5 is not best, bishop f4 according to the computer is actually best, bishop d6, and now trade, and now play f4. And the point is, e5 is still threatening, queen h2 is threatening, knight e4 cannot be captured due to the spin on d-file. So it is a complete collapse. If e5 was to happen, queen h2 just ends the game, king f8, and e takes d5, and after takes e5, game over. But e5 makes a lot of sense too, because what happens is, after knight e5, bishop f4, right now there is a pin, but bishop d6, and suddenly Koblenz equalized the game. And it's generally insane how from completely winning position, even Mikhail Tal had some problems, but it's still not so easy from humans' perspective. If humans sees this position, people might be worried about some rook h8 ideas, I mean queen h2, queen h8 and checkmate ideas. But here also Black shouldn't worry about stuff, because king f8, king f7 and Black are actually safe. Unless there is something that White can create, Black can actually hold. And one of the threats here is knight d3 check, because now this bishop has only one defender, which is queen on d2, and knight d3 check would result in a lot of problems for white pieces. So they go queen h2. Now you might ask, why not knight d3? After knight d3, king b1, it turns out that this is under attack, this is under attack. If bishop f4 or knight f4, queen h8 is a checkmate, so it is a little trap. King goes to f8, tries to hide itself on e7, and now queen h8. And apparently queen h8 is a huge mistake, and now Tal is suddenly losing. Queen h8, king e7, actually king e7 was best. Knight h8 was a huge mistake. King e7, I'm actually not sure why this wasn't played on the board, because after queen g7 there is even knight d3 which can be calculated, and I don't think that it is a bad position for black. Like there's absolutely nothing to worry about. I mean, your pieces are good, there is no attack, there is nothing, there are no threats, but Alexander complains after queen h8. He was worried that king f7 doesn't work for whatever reason in his head. But honestly, the line I'm calculating, I'm like, knight d3, there's apparently a better move, which is rook j8 immediately. And I'm not even sure, you know what's computer best move here? Queen j8, sacrifice the queen. You know, maybe coach decided to give his student, you know, some odds. But this is just a win of queen h6, knight d3 is now, oh, queen cannot go anywhere, because knight d3 and no way. Wait, but what was the plan? Queen h4, yes, but isn't good, not sure. But knight g8 was played. Knight g8 suddenly gives, you know, computer starts thinking, computer starts finding better resources for white, and from suddenly completely losing position, Mikhail Tal plays rook h7, and now he has pressure. Pawn goes to f5, bishop goes to h6, creating a lot of pins on this side of the board. And now, after rook d7, Mikhail Tal plays something insane. Once again, he played on this side of the board for probably the last 24 moves. And now he does something insane. Mikhail Tal sacrifices his bishop, which he didn't touch throughout the whole game, suddenly started creating threats. The point here is, if a takes b5 was to be taken, now this rook is opened and rook goes to g1. Rook goes to g1 and creates more threats against g7 pawn. Position is completely lost for black pieces, even though they still gotta be extremely precise to convert this one, but their position is completely winning. So after bishop b5, rook goes to f7. Alexander Kamblens was like, I'm not accepting your sacrifice, Misha. You gotta do something else. So Mikhail still goes rook g1. Probably, you know how my coach said, take all your pieces, take as many pieces as you possibly can, and then, you know, you'll be worried, you'll at least try to fight with something. But here rook f7, rook g1 is played anyways. Like, and bishop is still active, and threats against g7 are still in the air, and it's very hard to play on. So rook goes to a7. Now black have 3 heavy pieces on the 7th rank. Knight d4. Now once again there's knight e6 ideas potentially, I mean a lot of ideas, just a lot of stuff. But you know what could have played on the board? You'll never believe. Bishop e8. Mikhail Tal didn't see it, even though this would have been an insane end to it all. Because now these bishops are insane. Suddenly this bishop, which was on f1 just 2 moves ago, suddenly rerouted itself to h5, which is absolutely insane, and this maneuver would have tied black pieces forever. So knight g4 was played. Now Alexander Kamblens is trying to basically block the g file with his knight, but once again this bishop on b5 is still alive. Now white decided to take on g4. Once again there were a lot of stronger options, and you know what's the best move again? Ba-bam. That's unbelievably insane. This move is played for the only reason to try and basically, let's say bishop d7, there is now rook g7, so and if rook d7, now knight e6, so queen d7 capture, and now f takes g4. But bishop d7 is something that is absolutely insane. So f takes g4 was played. Because bishop e5 still will be sacrificed. I think that's the only point of bishop d7, just try to make black more uncomfortable, make black more tight. So after h4, this bishop is still hanging on b5. Bishop goes to e5, creating potential threats. Not g5, because this bishop is still pinned, but maybe g takes h6 at some point, attacking the queen on h8. Now knight goes to c6. Knight f3 was a much stronger option. Knight goes to c6, forking rook, forking bishop. So in this game, Tal surprisingly had a lot of mistakes. Bishop goes to c3, actually wait. B takes c3 was again best, but Mikhail Tal, once again, you know, every move is some kind of masterpiece. Bishop e3 is now best according to computer. Oh my goodness, but computer thinks it's inaccuracy. But, you know, after a while, it recognizes that it is by far the strongest option in the position. Not by far, but 0.6 difference between two moves. Bishop e3 attacking the rook on a7, and also right now threats of bishop c5. Pawn goes to d4, very logical, and now, guess what? That's unbelievable. That's why we are watching this game. It's insane. The best move, the only winning move. Like, if you play bishop e3, you gotta see the next move after d4. Because many players would just play something like knight d4, and now they're completely lost, because queen f4 takes a piece and it's a win. But Mikhail Tal saw everything in his head. And after d4, can you guess the move? Try to guess the move. Write your comments in the comment section. He played rook g h1, setting up queen g8, rook h8, checkmate. Rook goes to d7, now bishop g5, and once again position becomes equal. So the winning option was g takes f5. We see absolute chaos on this chessboard. Bishop goes to g5. Bishop g5 looks logical though. We're trying to block as many squares on this diagonal as possible. A takes b5. Rook 1 h6. Brilliant move. The position is still drawn, by the way. Bishop b2 and then queen c6 makes a draw, but it's like a very forced draw. d3 was played instead. I don't really understand the idea behind d3, maybe trying to promote this pawn. B takes c3, taking the bishop, and now d2, completely winning position for white pieces once again. King d1, queen c6, and rook freaking f6. The point is now, if g takes f6, this is just a checkmate. So now if king a8, queen g8 is a checkmate, the best move is of course to sacrifice everything, but bishop g7, king e7, bishop f6, king d6, bishop e5, king c5, bishop d4, and we're just hustling around. King c4 is now best. Now rook a7, we take the pawn and win the game on next move. Rook f6, rook f7 was played, and now queen g7, and Alexander Kaplan's admitted his loss because he is being checkmated here. Let me show you the line. I mean, it doesn't even have to be the best line here. Rook f7, queen g8, everything wins. A lot of material is being taken. White won. The accuracy was pretty low in this game, but it once again demonstrates you, despite Tal being the best attacking player, he still made some mistakes, some sacrifices didn't work. It's not one of his best games, but once again, it just, you know, it just demonstrates you how you should attack sometimes, you know, create a lot of weaknesses, play on one side, and then out of nowhere, go to the other side of the board to try and checkmate black. So yeah, it was a fun game to watch. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it, if you want to see more videos like this in the future, specifically analysis of Mikhail Tal, and I'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.